Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivardhari.
Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana.
Jamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Yamuna Tira Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
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 Jai Mitapad Paramahansa Buddhikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Buddhikacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavindra Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. And Samaveta Bhaktavinda Ki Jai. All glories to the sum of devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the sum of devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to the sum of devotees.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading tonight from the Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Chapter 6, verse number 34. Etadyatura chittanam
Etad atura chittanam
matra sparshe chayamahu
matra sparaschayamuhu
bhavasindu prabho drishto
bhavasindu plavo drishto
harichayana varnanam
haricharna nivarnanam
etadhyatura chittanam
etadyatura chittanam
matra sparshe chayamahu
matra sparaschayamuhu
bhavasindu prabho drishto
bhavasindu plavo drishto
harichayana varnanam
haricharna nivarnanam
etadhyatura chittanam
etadyatura chittanam
matra sparshe chayamahu
matra sparaschayamuhu
bhavasindu prabho drishto
bhavasindu plavo drishto
harichayana varnanam.
haricharna nivarnanam.
Translation. This is Sri Narada speaking to Vyasadeva. in chapter 6 of the first canto. It is personally experienced by me that those who are always full of cares and anxieties due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects can cross the ocean of nescience on a most suitable boat, the constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada's purport: the symptom of a living being is that he cannot remain silent even for some time. He must be doing something, thinking of something, or talking about something. Generally, the materialistic men think and discuss about subjects which satisfy their senses. But as these things are exercised under the influence of the external illusory energy, such sensual activities do not actually give them any satisfaction. On the contrary, they become full with cares and anxieties. This is called Maya, or what is not. That which cannot give them satisfaction is accepted as an object for satisfaction. So Narada Muni, by his personal experience, says that satisfaction for such frustrated beings engaged in sense gratification is to chant always the activities of the Lord. The point is that the subject matter only should be changed. No one can check the thinking activities of a living being, nor the feeling, willing, or working processes. But if one wants actual happiness, one must change the subject matter only. Instead of talking of the politics of a dying man, one might discuss the politics administered by the Lord himself. Instead of relishing activities of the cinema artists, one can turn his attention to the activities of the Lord with his internal associates like the gopis and the Lakshmis. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, by his causeless mercy, descends on the earth and manifests activities almost on the line of the worldly men, but at the same time extraordinarily, because he is almighty. He does so for the benefit of all conditioned souls, so that they can turn their attention to transcendence. By doing so, the conditioned soul will gradually be promoted to the transcendental position and easily cross the ocean of nescience, the source of all miseries. This is stated from personal experience by such an authority as Sri Narada Muni. And we can have the same experience also if we begin to follow in the footsteps of the great sage, the dearmost devotee of the Lord. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this discussion between Narada Muni and Srila Vyasadeva is taking place in the context of the manifestation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. If you recall, Narada Muni in the 4th or 5th chapter of the first canto, he felt great anxiety because although he had written all of this Vedic literature, he had written the Mahabharata, he had written the other Puranas, he had written the Vedanta Sutra, still he felt some lack. He felt that he hadn't completely manifested these literatures for the benefit of the Kali Yuga residents who were going to need instruction. This is the urgency that was felt by him and other great sages at the advent of at the end of the Dwapara Yuga, that Kali Yuga was going to see the great degradation of people of this world, and without the Lord's instructions coming through genuine Shastra, they would be lost, simply covered by ignorance. And so, with great urgency, he wrote down all of the previous literatures that had heretofore simply been passed on by spiritual master disciple through all reception. So we're too, as explained in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, we don't live long enough, we're always misguided, we're disturbed, we're lazy in the matter of spiritual life, and so we need as much help as we can get, and the main help that we need is genuine Shastra. So Vyasadeva provided that, but still he felt that he hadn't completely fulfilled his task. And so he sat in meditation, and his spiritual master Narada Muni appeared, and he confirmed that, yes, Vyasadeva had written all these literatures, but he had not written anything that completely and solely glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his incarnations, and his devotional service and his devotees. So that's how the Srimad Bhagavatam came to be written. Narada Muni, after this departure of Narada, shortly after this verse, Narada Muni departs, and then Vyasadeva sits in meditation and the instruction of Narada, and he sees the Lord. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranihite yamale apashyat padasampurnam mayam cha tadapashriyam. Through his trance of bhakti yoga, devotion, he sees the Lord, the complete person, along with his energies, his Maya energy, which is under his control. And specifically, he sees not only internal energy, but the external energy, the bewildering Maya Shakti. So then what does he see? These are very important verses. Much of the Tattva Sandarbha is taken up in explaining these verses, because this is the meditation and the realization that resulted in the writing of Bhagavatam, which is our ultimate means of knowledge, is our pramana for what we should understand about ourselves, the Lord, this world, and how to practice devotional service. So then he saw yeya sammohito jiva atmanam trigunatmakam paropi manate nartam yat kripacha vipadyate. That he saw that by that Maya energy, the living entity is completely bewildered. And although the living entity is part of the superior energy of the Lord, still we take ourselves to be material and therefore suffer so many anarthas. And then he saw the means of wiping away the anarthas. Anarto pasamam sakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje lokasyajanato vidvangs chakre satvata sangitam. He saw that these anarthas can be mitigated and destroyed by the process of bhakti yoga. But alas, the people don't know that. Lokasya janato. Therefore, the wise Vidvangs, Vyasadeva, wrote this Sattvata Samhita, namely the Srimad Bhagavatam, by which, and it says, Lasyam Vaishyamanayam Krishna Paramapurushe Bhakti Utpadite Pungsa Shoka Moha Bhayapaha. By simply giving all reception to this Srimad Bhagavatam, that devotional service to Krishna awakens in the heart. And Shoka Moha Bhayapaha. It destroys all lamentation, illusion, and fear, just by hearing this Bhagavatam. So this is the subject matter. The whole thing, as this verse describes, the subject matter only has to be changed. Because part of Maya's energy is providing us with unlimited subject matter for diversion. This is simply a diversion of the mind for away from Krishna, away from the Atma Tattva. And therefore, at the beginning of the second canto, where the Bhagavatam really kind of starts again, the first canto is an introduction. How did the Bhagavatam come to be written? What is the fate of the Pandavas and Krishna and Parikshit, the listener of the Bhagavatam? How did he come about? It's all there in the first canto. And then the second canto more or less starts again with Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And it begins with answers to Shukadev's question he posted at the end. What should one think? What should one hear and chant? What should one do at the time of death? That's the critical time. You know, whatever we do during life, in terms of our sadhana, our practice, will be tested at the time of death. So that was his question. And again Shukadev begins with describing the sharp distinction between mundane topics and transcendental topics. He praises the question. Very nice question, because the answer to this question is beneficial for all living beings. And then he describes Shota Vyadini Rajendra Ninang Santi Sahasracha Apashyatam Atmatattvam Griheshu Grihamedina. Those who are simply absorbed in materialist activities, materialistic family life, they have unlimited subject matters for hearing. Shota Vyadini Ninang Santi Sahasracha means thousands. And what is it? The subject matter simply keeps them bound. And the nature of this material life, he says, is Nidrihariyate naktam vivayena chabhav. At nighttime, simply sleeping, having sex. Daytime, earning money. Weekend, shopping. Kutumba badanenava. This is a lifetime. And you see millions of people living that, if they are lucky to have a job. But working. And they take shelter of the fallible soldiers. Dehapatte kalatradi shatmasainya shisapapi. The fallible soldiers of the body. Because it's a hard struggle for existence. If you're separated from Krishna, then life is full of anxiety. How to maintain, how to defend, how to ward off the miseries of this world. So we take shelter of soldiers. Strong body. Dehapatte, relatives, friends, wife, husband, bank balance, insurance, army. All of these things are attempts to ward off the miseries, defend. Kalatrashi atmasaineshu asatsu api, but they're fallible soldiers. Even though we see historically that a grandfather, a great-grandfather, they've all died, all of these big empires have come and gone, nobody can defend. Pashyan api napashiti, though seeing they don't see. And therefore he says, there's a little lesson here, right at the beginning of the second canto. Tasmat bharata sarvatma bhagavan ishvaro hari shotavyak kirtitavyascha smartavyak chechitabayam. If you want fearlessness, abhayam, at the time of death, then here's what you have to do. O Bharata, O great descendant of King Bharata. You have to hear about, chant about, and smart, and remember who. He has 4 different designations of the Supreme Personality. Sarvatma, Bhagavan, Ishvaro, Hari. There can be no question of who he's designated. The Supreme Soul, the Supreme Personality of God, Bhagavan, the Supreme Controller, and Hari, he who removes all of our suffering and takes away our mind. So it's Krishna. One has to hear about, chant about, and remember Krishna. And then one can achieve perfection at the end of life. He says, Etavad Sankhya Yoga Abhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janmalava Parapungsam Ante Narayana Smriti. Whatever you are doing in terms of your Swadharma, your life activities in Varnashram Dharma, study of Sankhya, analytical process of analyzing your life, yoga, whatever you do, it will be perfection. The perfection of that, the fruit of your process will be remembering Narayan, or Krishna, at the end of life. So, back to the verse here from Narada Muni. He's simply reiterating from his own experience. You remember the story of Narada. Narada was a simple boy, the son of a maidservant. He wasn't from a very high family. But the great fortune he had was that in the 4 months of the rainy season, devotees came and stayed at his house. And what did the devotees do during the rainy season? They just spent all day hearing and chanting, and honoring prasad. And the mother was blessed, giving, the cooking and performing service. And Narada came and offered the prasad, and then he asked permission, can I take some prasad? Okay, sure. And by taking the remnants of these great devotees, he developed a taste for hearing. Taste for hearing. This was the key element. And by hearing and hearing and hearing, he became Narada Muni. Even though it took another birth for him to come back as Narada, but he became purified just by that. So this is very important proof that it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, if you're able to get the association of real devotees and take advantage of that association properly, then you can achieve perfection in this life, purification. So let's go through some of these points. So first of all, atara chittanam, that everybody in this world, minds are full of cares and anxieties. The only ones who can be peaceful are devotees. This is explained by Lord Chaitanya. He says, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Atayeva Shanta. We like to say Shanta, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. But where's that Shanti coming from? It can only come if you have no material desires. Is it? If you're always anxious about getting something in this world, or avoiding some problem, or lamenting because of what you lost, shochati, kanchati, where's the peace? If you have $10 billion, and you're worried, why don't I have $40 billion like what's his name? The Microsoft.
Bill Gates.
Bill Gates. Or India, there's somebody even richer, right? He built this
Ambani.
stupid, this ugly house in Bombay.
Yeah.
Where the most ugly house I've ever seen.
Yeah. That's
$40 billion. So, why? Because everyone, he wants to show that he's the richest. So the point is that Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kame Sakala Ashanta, Lord Chaitanya says in the second half of the verse. Says those who want Bhukti, Mukti or Siddhi. This covers everybody else but devotees. 99.9% want Bhukti, material enjoyment. Mukti, liberation, or yogic siddhis. But this is a type of karma. There's nothing spiritual about it. Just because you know how to make, read someone's mind or do astral travel or some other yogic siddhi, that's not spiritual. That's just a refined material skill, you see. And one yogi is emphasized the other yogi. We were discussing this pastime of Devasa and Ambarish. Ambarish is just a king, which is considered lower, than Brahmins and yogis. King deals with material things. And Devasa was so envious of him. Where's the peace? Envy is not peaceful. Why should Ambarish be honored so much, and me, a powerful yogi with all these yogic siddhis and thousands of disciples, I'm not receiving as much honor? That's a sign of no spiritual advancement. Devotee is always trinadapi sunichena, amanina manadena, right? He doesn't care for any honor for himself. He's ready to give honor to the honorable. But basically he thinks himself really low. So this is a sign of that even though Devasa was so powerful, he was siddhikami. He was in the category of kami, and you cannot be peaceful. If you're full of material desires, you can never be peaceful, because they can never be satisfied. Kama burns like fire and is never satisfied, Krishna says. So, how to become Atara Chittanam? So everyone in this material world who is conditioned, it means that we're never satisfied. The soul can never be satisfied in the material world, because it's not our natural place. No matter whether you're Lord Brahma or down to the insignificant ant. Is Indra ever satisfied? He's always, wondering if his position is going to be taken, right? Or some affront has been given, right? Indra is, Indra, he's a servant, but he's not very that advanced. So, why matra sparshe chaya? Because of desire for sense gratification. Matra sparshe. Again and again and again and again. It means that it's not satisfying. You get it, and then it becomes you want something again, again, and again, all the way to the end of life. So this is called Bhava Sindhu. This is the ocean of birth and death. You can never be, I just heard a lecture, you could never be peaceful on the ocean. Prabhupada experienced that on the boat. It's always this way, that way, this way, that way. They have these cruise ships in which they try to create an environment that's idyllic, right? Oh, we're enjoying on the cruise. Right? We have the sun, we're away from the land, all the other entanglements. But what happens in the cruise? Sometimes the cruise ship falls over. We have that, right? Gets capsized. So the cruise ships are a perfect example of how you can never be satisfied in this world. It's a perfect example. They tried to create an environment, just like everyone tries to create an environment in his home or somewhere like. Where this is what I want. This is exactly what I want. It's peaceful, idyllic. You pay so much money, right? But first of all, paying so much money is itself a negative. That's an anxiety. How are you going to pay it back? Right? You just have to go on a credit card. But that's another thing. But then even there's the danger. You're in the ocean, right? One of them fell over. Another one was becalmed. Means that that something happened with the engine. And then for days they're just drifting, and then it was horrible. They couldn't wash properly, right? It was a nightmare. It's meant to be a dream. A vacation became a nightmare. So that's what material life is like. You're lured by the Maya to think that you can enjoy, and then for a little while you enjoy a little bit, but the result is that you suffer a lot. So it's like this. Maya means a little enjoyment, a lot of suffering. And Krishna consciousness means just a little suffering, tapasya, and endless enjoyment. So which is the better investment? Think about it. Is it? So use your intelligence. So he's saying, now, Baba Sindhu Plavo, now, but this is a boat. You see, the cross, efficiently cross over this ocean. Baba Sindhu Plavo. Drishta means I have seen it. In other words, I'm not just spinning stories here. I have directly seen it, experienced by me. That's why he says, personally experienced by me, Prabhupada says. Haricharayanavaranam. So this is such a simple process. We were discussing this last night, the Sadhu Sangashtaka. And it centers on, this verse, Satam Prasangan Mama Virya Samudam. That if you can just get good association, this is the mercy of the great Vaishnavas, that they give up their association. Sometimes with great austerity, like Srila Prabhupada. The whole thing was that he had to come to New York. He couldn't just send a book, he couldn't just, send a letter. He had to actually be there and give his association. Whereby people who are somewhat receptive could hear the transcendental sound vibration as it is, with the special quality that comes from one who's actually a devotee, pure devotee. So, Haricharayanavaranam means to hear and repeat the activities of Krishna. So, Haricharayanavaranam. So this is the easiest form of yoga. This is Yatishyate Vijubhya Yoga Magai. One of the verses in this, I call it the Sadhu Sangashtaka. Canto 3, chapter 25, text 20 to 27. 7 verses about the association of sadhus. And in that description, he describes why one should associate with devotees, and so that one can get liberation, what the qualities of the devotees are, tolerant, they're always hearing and chanting, and so forth, and what the benefits are, satam pasangan. By that association, one will hear genuine vibrations glorifying Krishna, which will increase one's faith, one's attraction, and ultimately result in pure bhakti for Krishna. So he says, this is the easiest, yatishyate, vijubhya yoga marga. It's such an easy form of yoga. This is yoga. You don't have to practice difficult austerities, you don't have to go to the Himalayas. Just find or develop yourself that circle of devotees who are enthusiastic of hearing and chanting. That's what the kirtan is about, that's what the Ratha Yatra is about. Give people a chance to hear. All the other things are, meant to come to the point of hearing and chanting, pure vibration. So, Prabhupada analyzes what the situation is, that everyone has to vibrate. Human beings are meant to, they have this special intelligence. So, part of the having this intelligence is that you want to express, what you thought, what you're thinking, all of these different things. So this is the Vacho Vegam, Manasakroda Vegam, that described the beginning of the nectar of instruction. There's a certain urge to speak. Everybody wants to speak, But most people have nothing to say of value, In fact, it's just the negative. So much of Krishna consciousness is learning to hear rather than speak, but hear from the right source and then speak and repeat. You see, that's the thing. So Prabhupada says, so the speaking capacity simply has to be turned. That's the whole idea, is that we don't repress, but we sublimate. We don't repress the activities of the senses, the urge to speak, but we make it sublime by changing the subject matter. So this is what the process is all about. And Bhagavatam is the ideal subject matter, and it's very beautiful as well. This is the whole thing. It's because of Shukadev's poetic expertise, transcendental poetic. It's become, even among mundane scholars, they recognize the beautiful poetry of Bhagavatam. So, this is what Krishna consciousness, how it spreads, is that even among ordinary people, they're attracted by the beauty of the pictures, of the music, of the prasadam. Anyone would be attracted to nicely prepared prasadam. But it's not just ordinary food, it's prasadam. It's Krishna prasadam, so it brings them closer to Krishna. So, by this activity of always hearing and chanting about Krishna's Leela and his instructions and his service and his devotees, as Prabhupada says, the conditioned soul will gradually be promoted to the transcendental position and easily cross the ocean of nescience, the source of all miseries. And the reason is that it all comes down to our mind or on our consciousness. It's as we were discussing in the car, these 3 verses in the eighth chapter just summarize the whole philosophy, of practice, is that young bhapi smaran bhavam, jajat jante kalevana, tamtame vaiti konteya, sadatan bhava bhavita. Whatever you remember, whatever is the most predominant thought, and when you leave this body, that will determine your future body without fail. Without fail. Therefore, antakali tamameva smaran mukta kalevana, yakpriyati smaran bhavam yasina jatra samshaya. Therefore, one who remembers me at that end time, antakali tamameva smaran mukta kalevana, yakpriyati smaran, he attains to my nature. He attains love for me, attains to the spiritual world. And therefore, tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yujjicha. Therefore, at all times, one should remember me and fill in the blank. Do your work, whatever we have to do. Now, for the fortunate souls whose work is simply Krishna consciousness, that helps. But even if it's not directly, then you have to try to remember as much as possible during your work. It's tricky, but still, we have to come to the point of constant remembrance. It's constant remembrance, and then yakpriyati samadbhavam yasinat yatrasanki. Mame vaishyasi what is it? Tasmat sarvesha kalesu mamanusmara yujjasha mayarpatamano buddhir mame vaishyasi samsakti. So with your mind and intelligence directed to me, fixed on me, you will certainly come to me without a doubt. So what's the practical way to always think of Krishna? Is to hear about him, glorify him, chant Hare Krishna. That's also speaking, right? Hear the Hare Krishna mantra, the most important kind of hearing and chanting that we do. Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, all the books that we have. This provides unlimited, there's no question, unlimited subject matter for hearing and chanting. And it provides you a way of seeing the world. So that even when you see ordinary things of this world, you can connect them to Krishna. Because your mind is filled with the ideas and with the teachings of these shastras. So this was Srila Prabhupada's great gift to the world. He worked so hard to provide us with this literature. And by his inspiration, so much other literature, following in the footsteps is coming down. So we have this great opportunity, and we should take advantage of it. If we want to cross over the ocean of birth and death, this is a very suitable boat. It's practical. It is practical. All over the world, these books have been translated into different languages. And in a mere, 45 years or so, every corner of the world practically, there are literatures, there are devotees chanting, and we have the opportunity to get on this boat. Otherwise we'll continue to flounder within this ocean of birth and death. This is the means of advancement. So, since he talks about the constant chanting, recitation of the activities of Hari, I'll give you a sample from the Srimad Bhagavatam of some beautiful, activities of Hari that one can learn and chant. The gopis are the ideal devotees. They spend their days, they're in the form externally of simple, cowherd girls doing menial service. They're not great learned scholars anymore. Some of them used to be, great. They've given that up, and now they just take. But the one thing that they have is the greatest treasure is, ever increasing love for Krishna, and so they spend their days pining for his association and chanting about his activities. So in 2 chapters, there's 4 different Gopi Geets. Chapter 21, the famous Venu Geet. Chapter 35, the famous Yugal Geet. And it's simply, beautiful vibration. So the gopis are singing. They're remembering Krishna. It's all in detail, see. Vama bahokata vama kapolo, valgitam buddhadadapata venam, komalanga dibadashata margam, kopyahidi yati yatra mukunda, vyomayana vanita sahasiddhaya, vismatas tadamadaya, tadupadaya salajja, kama margana samapata chitta, kashpalam mihuda pasmita nivya. The gopis are thinking of Krishna. He's going out. Details. Vama bahu. Vama kapolo. He's got his left cheek on his left arm here, like this. He's playing long flute. And he's moving his eyebrows very attractively. Volgita bru. Adar arbata vedam. He's got the flute to his lips. The soft fingers are stopping the holes. Komalangulibir, Ashita Margam. Oh gopis, here, what Krishna does is what happens in the sky. The devas and the devis are flying in their airplanes, and they become attracted to Krishna just by hearing the flute. And the goddesses are a little embarrassed because the clothes are getting loose. You know, they think, what are my husbands going to think? And Vishwanath Chakravarti points out the husbands are also embarrassed because they're going to, what are my wives going to think? Because my clothes are also getting loose. They're all becoming attracted to Krishna. And then they go on with that, and it says, Hanta Chittam Abala. They say, my dear, listen, this is very amazing. Hanta Chittam Abala Shunatenam, Hara Hasa Urasista Davidjut, Nandasuna Nayamada Jananam, Namado Yaikuja Debenam, Vrinda Shova Divisha Brigagavo, Venava Divita Cheta Sahara, Danta Dashta Kabbalah, the Karnan Need Vitalik at the Chittam Vivasa. So it says, my dear friends, listen to something very amazing. Hanta Chitram Abala, or girls, young, weak girls, you know, they're called Abala. Right? Here's something amazing. It says, Hara Hasa Urasista the Vidya. So Krishna's Hara Hasa means a smile, like a necklace. Or it can mean that his necklace is like the smile, right? With the pearls, pearl necklace, you see. Or it can mean that his necklace is reflecting the glow from his shiny teeth. There's different means. Hara Hasa Urasis, and he's got this mark of Shrivats on his chest, see. Nanda Suna, the son of Nanda, and when he plays that flute, all the different animals far away, you know, the different deer and the cows in the distance, you know, they're all stunned in ecstasy to hear that flute. And even though they may be eating some grass or something, they stop eating. They can't chew anymore. They're just like pictures in a painting. You know, they're so stunned. This is a symptom of ecstasy. The cows, and they go on like that, describing he goes in to the forest and he plays, and the cloud is also thundering lightly in you know, the cloud is afraid of drowning out the flute. We had the thunder, you know. So the cloud doesn't want to, so it rumbles very softly in accompaniment, you see. And then it rises up high because it's hot. The sun is beating down, so it creates an umbrella. So Krishna doesn't have it. And little tiny drops of water, like a spray, come down and be soothing, cool Krishna. So this is the gopis' thought. Every day they're thinking like this. And this is the boat, you know, to go across that ocean. This is how this was Narada's realization. So we should take advantage of these literatures. It's very nice that it can be music and poetry and song. This helps us to remember and become enlivened and singing, just like the kirtan can go on for hours and hours. But we can't chant, you know, for 6 hours in a row, but we can do kirtan for 6 hours in a row. Because the music and the beat, you know, the melody helps us to remember and become fixed. Okay, I'll read the verse once again. Eta dhyatara chittanam matra sparshe chayamuhu bhavasindu prabodrishto haricharyana varnanam. It is personally experienced by me, says Narada Muni, that those who are always full of cares and anxieties, due to desiring contact of the senses with their objects, can cross the ocean of nescience on the most suitable of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. Any questions or comments?
Thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful
Hare Krishna
class. The question is, in the last line of the translation, we read the constant chanting of the transcendental activities of the personality of Godhead. So you briefly explained, but just to get some clarification, can that also mean narrating the pastimes of the Lord? When we say the word chanting, is it just in a poetic form, the pastimes of the Lord? Or it can also mean having some classes where we narrate
Absolutely.
the pastimes? And also, does the hearer also get some benefit also?
Yes. The hearer and the chanter both benefit. Anuvarnanam literally means to describe or articulate, following in the ways of the authorities. Honor means to follow. So absolutely, classes on Bhagavad Gita, this all included in the Hari Charyana Varnam. It's good to have the perspective of how whatever we're doing, you could be arranging for some technical thing for the Rath Yatra. This is also Hari Charyana Varnam. But remembering how it all links in to the larger mission of making these vibrations accessible, enlivens one in one's service. Just like my service of editing, oftentimes it's very technical. I spend hours on layout, moving this little piece of this number up a little bit so it lines up with that number, But I'm not going to do that on some karmi book, This is Bhagavad Gita, this is Bhagavad Gita, Prabhu's Bhagavad Gita, and of course I can also listen to some lecture while it's going on, that helps. But the idea is that the overall purpose of our lives, which means the purpose of everything that we do within our lives, should be for either direct glorification, which is most blissful, we should have plenty of that, or some activity that facilitates the direct glorification of the Lord. It's all auspicious. It's win-win. The person who's doing the glorification, the person who's hearing it, the person who's facilitating it, are all benefited. Just like on the other side, on the person who slaughters the cow, feeds, cooks it, and everything, they're all contaminated with sin. So anyone who's involved in furthering this movement or facilitating the glorification of the Lord is benefit. And this is what, the devotees are trying to push back against the tide of the Kali Yuga, which is impure, sinful, and destructive. So but the force of the Sankirtan movement is more powerful. That's why, I take encouragement from that last line of the first verse of the Shikshastika. Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. This is the Lord speaking in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That the Sankirtan movement is all victorious, and if Lord Chaitanya, because Krishna says it's going to be victorious, it will be. And we can even see how it can be victorious in our own lives, despite our efforts and our dragging our heels. If we keep on chanting and participating in the movement, then we're drawn along, into the blissful force of the Lord Chaitanya's movement, despite ourselves. So it's yes, absolutely. All of these, whether it's prose or poetry, but it's nice to have songs and things. This is part of our movement. We should never forget that in the spiritual world, there's no talking. There's only singing. Every word is a song. Every step is a dance. Okay. Anyone else? Anything else?
So, one more question, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So you mentioned about, there is a flickering, fleeting happiness, material happiness, which we get, but we have to pay the price for it. Now, I just wanted to find out if somebody does pious activities, and we have heard that in our Vedic literatures as well, that nobody needs to go after happiness because it comes automatically. Miseries also come our way automatically, even though we don't want it comes to us.
Right.
Similarly, happiness also comes to us. So is that happiness and the pleasure that we get in material activity, so when somebody gets some pleasure, is that a result of what they are supposed to get? And if they get it, will they have to pay a price? Or because of their karmic reaction, when they get some pleasure, is there any pleasure where they don't have to pay the price?
Yeah, the thing is, receiving the pleasure, say a mundane pleasure from previous pious activities, doesn't mean that now you have to suffer for that. It's the effort to increase, the material happiness that entangles us in sin, or especially in this age when nobody knows anything about anything. Now there is a type of happiness that doesn't involve sin, by pious activity going to heaven, But the problem with all of that, as Krishna says very explicitly in the 9th chapter of the Gita, is that it distracts you. They're worshiping me indirectly. The whole thing is indirect. What did he say? What is that verse? Tetam Bhukva Swagalokam Vishalam. The verse that comes before that is they drink the Soma Ras, and they're worshipping me with the desire to go to the heavenly planets. So they're worshipping me indirectly, So they get some indirect benefit. In other words, the material benefit is there, and you enjoy Vishala, Tetam Bhukva Swagalokam Vishala, but then Chine Punya Martya Lokam Vishanti. And then at a certain point, your credit card comes back, disapproved, and you have to come back down here. That's you build up a credit, punya credit. And then Martya Lokam, it's very interesting. He uses that word, world of death. So now you're back to square one. You haven't actually made any progress. So the point is, devotees, they don't try for material happiness, and they don't try to avoid too much material distress, because it's going to come anyway. I know devotees, I'm not among them, who won't even take an aspirin, because it's just putting it off. It's just putting off the difficulty. You're going to have to suffer that sometime or other, And we see, this famous line I like to quote from Prahlad, dukkha shadam tadapi dukkha, that the remedy for the dukkha is more dukkha, causes more dukkha. And in the meanwhile, that you've spent all your time trying to, get a remedy for the dukkha, you've forgotten the ultimate remedy, which is Haricharyanavarana. See, the whole thing is that whatever distracts you from this path is extremely damaging. So this whole, because everyone's absorbed in that. How can I increase my comfort, even a little bit? And how can I, decrease my discomfort? This is explained by the Yogendras. It says, what is it? Karman yabanananam dukkha hatyai sukhayacha. Paschet pakava paryaya mituni charinam nita. Something like that. That he says, and this is like a general statement. This is what's so wonderful about the Bhagavatam. In one verse is so concise and so to the point. He encapsulates the truth of what's going on in this material world. That everyone who's simply involved in pairing up in this world, mituni charinam, for happiness, which is practically everyone. Here's what they do. This is in a summary. They engage in so many undertakings in this world, small and large, to dukkha hatyai, to destroy your and sukhaya, to increase its sukhaya. But one should see that in the ultimate event, right? Paka means when it's all cooked, when the whole thing is, develops, they get just the opposite. All the sukha is evaporated, and all you've got left is dukkha. It means time goes by, and if you're simply absorbed in the material world, all of the things you can't enjoy anymore, and so many difficulties. This is what's going on. And he says the same thing's going on the heavenly planet. Even if you could go to the heavenly planets, that's also temporary. And you also have rivals there. We read about, Indra's up there with all the other gods and goddesses, And then over the horizon comes Bali with the army, right? Oh my God, what are we going to do, Brahaspati? They've got the blessings now. There's time, okay, off we go. Where are they going to go? They're exiled. So much anxiety. That's the heavenly planets. What to speak of here? So the idea is that it doesn't make any sense to even try for pious activities that will give you some lasting happiness, because the ultimate thing is you're in an ocean of birth and death. You cannot be happy here. So that's the whole idea. That's why Narada Muni in the previous chapter said, Tasaiva heto prayadeta kovido nalabideyad pramadama paryada. The verse you're referring to here, the same idea. It says, one who is intelligent will strive in this world not for the dukkha hatyai sukhaya, but for that which you cannot get from Brahma Loka down to Patala Loka. And that is Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Because by the subtle workings of time, which you cannot stop and cannot divert, we are going to get a certain amount of dukkha and a certain amount of sukha. That's coming. So what's the point of trying like crazy to, you know, mitigate the dukkha a little bit, which you can only move it just like a rug, you know, thing of a rug, put down here and it comes up over here. Okay. Now we've created this drug. Don't worry, Mataji. Mataji, let him go. Let him go. The pharmaceutical industry, multi billions, right? So people take so many drugs, you know. So you read the ads for the drug, for the pharmaceutical, right? Oh, this will make you happy. You're depressed, you know. So many people are feeling depressed because of financial things, whatever. That's it. The drug will make you calm, you know. You'll be able to go through life, okay. And then you turn the page, 3 pages of side effects, you know. Your kidneys could fail, you know. You can get aneurysm, or it'll shorten your life, or whatever, you know, like this. He said, so consult your doctor, you know. And then at the end of the page, it says, oh, you know, take this drug. You know. So you have this drug for the depression, this drug to counteract the side effects of this drug. And before you know it, you got 12. And then you have another problem, how to pay for all the drugs. More anxiety. This is material life. So all that money being spent, you know, researching the drugs, all that money being spent, you know, for the drugs, right? So just, you know, live a simple life, a simple diet. So much comes, you know, stay clean, you know, and chant Hare Krishna, you know, mind over matter, right? If you're happy in your attitude, you know, you keep good health. And if you don't have good health, back to Godhead. You know, the point is, it's completely self-destructive to become absorbed in the comforts and the happiness and the discomforts of this body. It's a waste of time. So yes, you can maybe adjust the thing a little bit, you know, do some penance so you get rid of this sinful reaction. But in the meantime, you're not chanting Hare Krishna, which is really the solution to the problem. Any other comments or questions? Okay. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari.